What role does what impact does THC and CBD have in sleep? Because I use like low dose THC occasionally.
Yeah, I'm a huge cannabis fan. I'm pro cannabis in all these areas. To be honest with you, I think I've actually written more as a sleep specialist than almost anybody in the country on this. So you definitely hit the jackpot when you're talking to me about cannabis and sleep. And I think it's important for folks to think about it. So as an example, we're here in California where cannabis is recreationally legal, so it's easy for us to talk about it. There are some places where it's not. And so I want people to understand we are not proponents of doing anything illegal. We are just talking about it from a medicinal kind of standpoint here, which I think is important for people to recognize. So I go into these dispensaries all the time and I ask them all these questions, right? Because I'm the pain in the ass that walks through the door, right? And so what I've discovered is there's only 3 reasons why people go into a dispensary: recreation, pain, sleep. That's it. Those are the only reasons that people seem to be in there. And most of the sleep products in there are not really sleep products. They're just add-on products. It's like, this brand has put out this monster, THC. Oh, and there's a little sleep product on the side. Very few, if any, are companies that are born of sleep-related THC products. So I don't think there's a lot in the marketplace that's very good right now, just to be fair. However, I think there's a lot that people could do that could be beneficial. So number one, let's talk about CBD versus CBN. Okay, so a lot of people have heard all about CBD. As soon as cannabis started becoming legal, it was freaking everywhere. There is absolutely, positively no data that I'm aware of that CBD makes you sleepy. However, CBD does help lower anxiety and help with pain. So if pain is keeping you awake or anxiety is keeping you awake, CBD may work really, really well for you. But to be clear, it doesn't make you sleepy. It's attacking those 2 other areas. CBN, as in nighttime, makes you sleepy. The reason is CBN is oxidized THC. Okay, so not that you ever did this, but maybe somebody was in high school and they went and they bought a bag of weed and they put it into their closet and they forgot about it and they came back and it was brown. We used to call it dirt weed, right? And when you smoked it, everybody went to sleep, right? That's CBN. It's oxidized THC. It doesn't have that oomph. It doesn't have that, I'm going to get you high to the recreational level. It's just a little bit of a hump over that anxiety and then makes you start to feel sleepy. I saw one study about 3 weeks ago, which exclusively looked at CBD versus CBN. And what they discovered was CBN is actually good for nighttime awakening. So remember how we were talking earlier in the show about what do you do in the middle of the night? CBN in the beginning of the night may actually help that out if you are a cannabis pro person. So that's one of the constituents that I like. I'm also going to be very honest with you. I like THC. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but there's a very big difference between getting stoned and using THC medicinally to get to sleep. And so the goal here is not to get buzzed or feel the high. The goal is to get just enough in to physiologically lower that arousal threshold, because THC lowers REM sleep and increases heart rate. And remember, we want our heart rate to go down, not up. So when somebody goes and they get a very high potency vape, let's say, and they hit it right before bed, that's probably not going to be helpful for you. Also, I'm not the biggest vape fan when it comes, as a doctor, we're not really thrilled with the idea of vapes. I like the tinctures, so I like the liquids, and you can do them sublingual, so you can stick them under your tongue, and it goes up and in about 20 minutes. So that makes it work nicely there. But I've got patients who they've got their vape in the middle of the night and it's a CBN mixture. And they wake up, they take one hit, they roll over and they go back to sleep and they're fine. Now, am I advocating for that? I'm not advocating for that, but at the end of the day, I can see the utility and I can see the use case. And we're all starting to learn more about how do we medicinally understand and what is the place for cannabis. So while I can't say that I love the idea, I can say that I like the fact that my patients can get back to sleep sometimes.
Yeah, I use a product it's a gummy from a brand which I have no affiliation with, called Wild, I believe is the name. It's WILDE. I could be wrong.
I like the
Or
Wana.
WYLD, I think is how it's spelled. And it's a gummy, and I divide it into 4s, and I'm getting about 2.5 milligrams of THC. And I know that there's a version of it that also contains CBN and CBD.
Yeah.
Both.
And so I would say it's probably worth taking a look at the other version with those 2 other constituents in it, cutting it up again, and seeing what the difference is, right? Like run an experiment on yourself and kind of see how you do. At the end of the day, I try to explain to people, I don't think there's anything wrong with using cannabis as a sleep aid, but you should still be able to go to sleep without it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you should be able to, like, I get it if you've got a lot of worries on your mind, or it's been a super stressful day or whatever, but you need to be able to give yourself what's called a T break, a THC break for significant periods of time, because otherwise it's going to become less and less effective. Now you're smoking full joints before bed. It's probably not going well, so you want to be, again, thoughtful and medicinal in how it's used. But I think there's definitely a use case for it, and I'm a fan.
So dose really, makes a huge difference. You want to essentially microdose.
Exactly. That's a great way of thinking. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I like the way you're thinking. I think you would want to microdose cannabis in order to help you fall asleep. I don't have any problems with that.
Is there a rationale to picking, either, because I know you typically see two strains of THC, indica
versus sativa. So here's the bottom line. Everything's a hybrid now. Good luck finding a pure indica, because I don't think it's out there. I think that we're starting to see more and more technology get into the cannabis space. And so I think it's going to be beneficial, because I think we're going to see different absorption profiles. I think we're going to start to see different form factors. So edibles are very different now than they ever used to be. You mentioned gummies. Some people, again, like vapes. Some people prefer flower. So there's a whole host of things. I think dose makes a difference. Here's what's tough about something like flower is if you've rolled an entire joint, most people aren't going to take 2 hits and then put it away, right? Versus you have a vape, you can take 2 hits, or a gummy, you can cut it in half and just take a half. So I think sometimes the form factor can influence the amount, but you hit the nail on the head. The amount is, from my standpoint, is probably the most important factor.
Love that. For somebody who does chronically struggle with sleep-related issues, at what point should they seek the help of a doctor such as yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so I call it the rule of threes, right? So if you're having problems more than 3 times a week, for more than 3 weeks a month, for more than 3 months, talk to somebody. Like it really, like, you should be able to do this. And to be fair, I'm not convinced that everybody needs to see a sleep doctor. Like, it might just be talking with your doctor. It might be talking with a life coach. It might be talking with a friend. Just be like, hey, I want to check in with you. I think my sleep is kind of messed up. What do you think? I'm having to do this multiple times a night, or I have to take gummies 7 nights a week for me to get to sleep. You probably already know that that's not the best idea, but checking in with somebody can be helpful. The good news is that if you swing over to thesleepdoctor.com, we have a tremendous amount of information on there so people can look up any aspect of sleep that they might want if they think they could have a sleep problem. We also can do sleep tests from there, so it can be pretty anonymous. You don't have to call your doctor and say, hey, I think I have a sleep problem. Like, a lot of stuff is now available online. So I think it's more accessible now than it ever has been, but people can do it, and I think they should.
If you liked that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.